Hi, I'm Charles Beckwith. I'm at FashionTechGuru on Twitter, Instagram, now YouTube, and just about everywhere else. This is my second video log, weekly video log. Today is Tuesday, April 14th, 2020, and the quarantine continues. I haven't been outside in a few days except to check the mail. It's been raining a lot, although it's cleared up a bit today. Um, but I'm afraid of getting sick because people in my neighborhood don't seem to have taken this thing uh, seriously enough for me. And I think a lot of them are in pretty bad shape right now, and they're still out walking around on the street, so that's pretty dangerous. Um, I live, a couple yards from 8th Avenue from the corner, maybe 100 yards from the corner um, of in Harlem. They call it Frederick Douglass Boulevard, and I wake up and I hear ambulances, and I go to bed, I hear ambulances, and all day I hear ambulances just going up and yeah. Um, so there's stuff going on here in New York that's not so good. Um, and I know that there's numbers that they're not counting in the big tallies yet, like the deaths in nursing homes and people who die at home aren't being counted as coronavirus deaths yet if they weren't already tested for the coronavirus, so they die of it, but they don't get into the official numbers yet. Um, so I think in a couple of days we're gonna see some really scary numbers come out that adjustments to the official scores that will look pretty bad. Uh, and if we don't, that's even more scary because it means they're the the government's hiding stuff, which we don't want. But I don't know. I'm trying not to think about that stuff. That's not productive to think too much about. I've been keeping myself pretty busy with work. Um, in the last few days, I've been feeling the isolation a lot, though. At least I've been noticing it more. Uh, I'm continuing to mess around with live streaming, as you can see. Um, Yesterday, I got two LED light panels, so I'll have more than just this ring light to play around with for lighting. And so I've got the green screen behind me, and I also have a black curtain, and I've got a bunch of photography stuff because I've got a million photography things shoved into the corners of my apartment here. Um, I'm waiting on a desk, and because right now I'm working on a card table that's a little unstable, and it's kind of the wrong shape for what I need to do. Need more than one monitor in front of me and that sort of thing. Um, so hopefully that's going to come today. So I'll be kind of squared away and being a little more efficient with how I can work. Uh, let's see. Over the weekend, I finished American Fashion Podcast episode number 248, which is actually about a company called Lafayette 148. So episode 248 about Lafayette 148, New York. Kathy and I got to see their facility over in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, which is just, it's so impressive. It's so different from what I'm used to seeing in New York City in terms of what a fashion brand's office and headquarters looks like. It's just this sprawling complex. It's all, well, they're on multiple floors, but most of it's on one floor. But it's a big floor in a big building. Um, and so the interviews with the CEO, Deirdre Quinn, who's also one of the founders, and she started the brand in Soho back before Soho was safe with this Chinese couple who had been manufacturing things for her when she was a designer at a bunch of different brands before. Um, so when she started her own company, she started with these two people, and they've built this kind of sprawling brand that's got an unusual story and an unusual structure. And that was an interesting interview. And if you work in fashion and you have a chance, go take a tour of the Lafayette 148 New York facility over in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, because I don't know, it's just a whole other way of thinking about how you do this business. Their approach to vertical integration is intense, and well, so you can find that in any podcast player or at AmericanFashionPodcast.com. Um, So I've been working on my projects on Gusher. Yesterday, I did a bunch of remote interviews for people to work on my Gusher startups, and there are more today and the rest of the week. If you missed my last video log, gusher.co is the website. It's a platform for rapid development of startup concepts based on equity compensation only. So it's people side hustling, like they've got a regular job and they're also doing this, and we kind of build a prototype in our spare time. Um, so I currently have three startups active on Gusher, which are in various stages of preparation and staffing up. The Pod, Augmented Group, and Harmony, and I have a bunch more interviews the rest of the week for those, and they're really starting to come together as functional projects. The Pod is probably furthest along. Augmented Group, I need to put more focus into ideation, I think, before it can move forward. I know where I want it to be at the end, but in terms of what the short term goal can be and what we can build as a minimum viable product, that is a stepping stone to the larger vision. That's a bit tricky. So I realized I have to think that out more. So I'm kind of backburnering Augmented Group slightly. And I'm still interviewing people and uh, thinking it through, because I know where we're going at the end, and the team that I need to put together for that. But in terms of what we have to build in the short term to justify to investors that we can build the larger version, the big dream, um, kind of have to narrow my focus and pick something a little more specific. Um, so I'm thinking about that a lot. But the big push right now is to find someone to be the chief marketing officer on the Pod. The Pod is the one that's really the front runner in terms of the startups I have on Gusher right now. Um, that's my community platform. It's built around supporting podcasters and making sure they get the ad revenue they're kind of entitled to. Um, but it's also got some other potential to it that's larger. Uh, so I'm looking for somebody who will stay on top of making sure we're actually creating a product with a business plan instead of just interesting tech, because I tend to um, get into, oh, it would be cool if we build it this way, but you got to stay on the ball, and so somebody in the team has to be um, thinking about marketing the whole time. The whole time we're building the minimum viable product, it's got to be somebody's put like somebody's the advocate for. At the end of the day, we have to sell something, and I'm the CEO. I'm supposed to be the advocate for that, but sometimes I need a reminder, and so I want to make sure that's part of it. So, but we have the CTO signed, which is great, and I think we're gonna have the project manager on board very soon as well. Um, Interviewed some great candidates for that, and so CTO signed, and he started building some basic parts of the app. And I'm starting to use Envision Studio, which is it's software that lets you design apps without putting all the code underneath them. So I can uh, just kind of sketch it out and say, well, there's a login field here and there's a password field here, and then that points to this other page where it's a dashboard, and here's what's on the dashboard. And so it's a mock-up. That's what I'm really doing. So I've been trying to learn Envision Studio, which took up a bunch of time in the last couple days. Um, so I had a good video chat with the CTO about the mock-up that I made, and we seem to be on the same page, which is good. But I have a bunch of other screens to mock up, and it's all very rough. So we really need to find a UI UX user interface, user experience person pretty soon too, to make sure that that stuff is right, because there's build time for these rapid building prototypes. It's like 2 months, which is nothing in terms of development time for software. I mean, the lead time for big stuff is years. So um, building something that's complex in 2 months is, you gotta have the right team together. So non-work stuff. On Saturday night, I played Dungeons and Dragons for the first time. A bunch of hacker friends. It was my first time playing. I had the game when I was in middle school, but I could never get enough people together to play, which was always frustrating. Uh, it's interesting to be finally doing it now and over the internet. It feels super nerdy, but it was a good way to kill 6 hours and be doing something social while I'm so isolated here in my apartment. And I think we're doing it again this weekend with more people, which should be a lot of fun. Um, this weekend, I started watching a series called Outlander on Netflix, and it's really good. A really good series so far. I'm definitely hooked. Um, I think it's by the same guy who did the Battlestar Galactica reboot for Sci-Fi Channel that was really popular, and but it isn't set in space. It's set in Scotland in the 18th century, and it's about this woman who has just survived being a nurse in World War II, and she gets thrown back in time like 200 years. So really good writing and acting, just top notch. And so Outlander, I definitely recommend having a look at that one. So I did not get to American Fashion Podcast episode 249 over the weekend. I was trying to get both 248 and 249 done last week and this weekend, but did not get done. So yeah, trying to learn InVision Studio ate up way too much time. But I have to get that one edited before I can get episode 250 out, and 250 is special. Just it's a milestone, 250 episodes of the podcast since 2014. This is 20, so we've been doing it for 6 years, and this is April, so this was about the time that I started putting the show together, I think. Yeah, 6 years of making a podcast, 250 episodes. Well, so I'm still hoping to get 249 edited and published this week, and then also episode 250. So maybe I'll get time to work on 249 today, and I'll get both of them out this week. So I came up with a plan for celebrating the 250th episode. My plan for celebrating is to bake a cake. So I'm going to make a bundt cake, and I'm going to use my beautiful made in USA Nordic ware bundt cake pan. And I'm making a Caribbean rum cake with molasses and walnuts and Bacardi Black rum, which I'm a little nervous about having an entire cake in the apartment while I'm here alone and I can't share it with anyone. And not having much space in the freezer since it's packed with supplies for the whole quarantine thing here. But be okay. Can go off the diet for a couple days. I wish there was some way to share it with people though. This is strange. Well, okay. Question of the week for you. How important is it going to be to get back to normal when this whole coronavirus mess starts clearing up? And should we just get back to normal? Or are there important lessons to be learned that we should not ignore going forward? What might those lessons be? Please leave comments, questions, feedback, whatever, wherever you're watching this. or hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at FashionTechGuru. Thanks for watching.